All right, this is APAB Calculus. We are doing the midterm review, and this is multiple choice number 13, which is the first of the calculator problems. Now, admittedly, this is one that you can do pretty easily without a calculator too. So the derivative of f is given by this function, meaning what they're saying is f prime of x is x to the fourth times x minus 2 times an x plus 3. And they ask how many points, right? So how many maximum values are there, right? So how many? Now, I'm going to argue that because they gave you a factor derivative, this is one where the calculator's really not worth it. I would argue that if I find the zeros of this thing, I'm going to find that the zeros are x equals 0, but it is important that this is an even multiplicity. This happens an even number of times, x equals 2 and x equals negative 3. So if I made a super lazy sign chart here, right, like using what they already gave me, if I make a sign chart, x to the fourth is always positive except at 0, right? X minus 2 is a line with a positive slope, so it's going to be 0 at 2. It'll be negative before it's 0 and positive after. And x plus 3 is going to be 0 at negative 3. Again, this is a line with a positive slope, so it's going to be negative before it's 0 and positive after. What that means is that my f prime is positive, negative, negative again, and then positive, which is not surprising because this even multiplicity generally tells you it's a saddle. Like there's no sign change at that point. So f is going to go up, down, have a saddle, down again, and then go up. So there's one max, there's a saddle, and there's a min. And they asked you how many maximum values are. Well, there's going to be one. Now, I do want to show you that there is an option to do this on a calculator. What you're going to find is that most calculator questions are either calculator required or calculator useless. This is one that weirdly falls kind of in the middle. So and I double check, I wasn't sure if I was doing calc first, but I was. So we are in radian mode for when it's relevant. So if I put my f prime in, there's another way to see this. So the other way to see this, if I put my f prime in, and I'm sure at some point I'm going to type something wrong and kind of stupid, so you know, good times. If I were to put this in my calculator and zoom 6, what you're going to see is that essentially I get the same piece of information. And you might say, oh, this looks nothing like the graph that I have at the bottom. And you're right, it totally does look nothing like the graph I have at the bottom, because that's not what we're actually talking about here, right? What we're looking at here, right, and I'm going to screenshot this for a sec, and then I'm not actually sure if I can successfully get this over here, but we're going to try. Pull this guy here. Okay, so good, close enough. All right, so if you look at this, this is the graph of f prime. So what's happening here, I know that a max happens, like an f max looks like this, which means that f prime goes from positive to negative, right? Because this would be f prime is positive and this would be f prime is negative. So this is a situation where f prime goes from positive to negative. So this has to be a max. This is a situation where there's no sign change, so f prime has to be a saddle like we saw here. F prime went from negative, so we went from positive to negative, which is how I know that, like, this is my f prime, positive, negative, so I know I have a max. Here, there's negative to negative, so there's a saddle. And at this spot right here, this is a min because my f prime was negative to positive. Well, that's going to mean that f is going down to up, right? And so that's a min. So again, either way, I get that there's one, but you can use a calculator to do this, and we're going to see other problems where a calculator is more useful, but it is possible to use a calculator to do this. I just don't think it's faster in this case with a nice, pretty factored function. If they gave you an ugly derivative here that you weren't going to be able to factor, or that it would take you forever to factor, by all means, the calculator is the smarter plan, but here it doesn't feel like the smarter plan.